Okay, so verse 1 in Genesis 32. So Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. So once he leaves Laban in the previous chapter, angels appeared to him. So these angels that were at one point invisible to him, they were made visible so that he can see them. And so perhaps maybe God let this happen so that he can see that God's protecting them and he's going to care for him and his family as he's going back to the land. But David Guzik says, this wonderful revelation of God's presence and care came after Jacob finally separated from Laban, the worldly man. Separation from the world brings greater insight to the believer. So in this chapter, we're reading about the journey of Jacob as he surrenders. He becomes a man led by the flesh. And in the end of the chapter, we're going to see how he surrenders to the Lord. But the first step is he had to separate from the world. And part of the process of surrendering to the Lord is separation from the world. 1 John 2, verse 15. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Now, John 3:16 says God so loved the world. But this verse says that we aren't to love the world. And is that a contradiction? It's not. Because in John 3:16 it says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. So in John 3:16 it's saying that God loved the people of the world, and that's why it says whosoever, not whatsoever. But in this one it's talking about the sin, the things that the world has to offer you, because even the next verse it says, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father but is of the world. And the world is passing away and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. So Jacob left Laban an ungodly influence in his life. And so what kind of friends do you have? What kind of people are you surrounded with? The Bible says that blessed is, in Psalms 1, blessed is a man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, or stands in the path of sinners, or sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. He will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever he does will prosper. So if you are around people that are going to give you ungodly advice, that they don't know the Lord at all, so the advice that they're going to give, how can they give you spiritual advice, you know? So they're going to give you advice that are contrary to God's will for your life. And so Jacob separated from Laban, and he's heading home to his father's land.